Morning, this is Nicholas from Gandora Gaming, and I'm here to bring you a Marincess deck profile. This is one of the coolest archetypes that came out in the last few years. It was just waiting on a couple more support cards to actually reach the metagame, and I think it's finally here. I think this deck is strong enough to take the meta by storm. Do I think it's the best deck in the format? Absolutely not. But I do think it definitely takes some games off the best decks. And I think Marincess is kind of in tier 2 range now on really strong Cybers decks that if your opponent doesn't know what the deck does, they can really get thrown off and lose. This same thing goes for Salamangreat, and same thing goes for Agnister. These three decks are hovering in the tier 2 section of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm just happy to say that this deck with the new support is actually pretty great. So let's get on to the deck profile. First things first, we're playing 3 Marincess Blue Tang. This is your starter, your Gazelle, your Foxy. This card is amazing. And what I mean by Foxy and Gazelle is that when this deck first came out, there's a lot of comparisons to the Water Salamangreats. Salamangreats were already a very meta deck by the time Marincess came out into the TCG, and people thought this was going to be Salamangreats 2.0 but better. If you read the first card, you definitely would think so, because Marincess Blue Tang sounds like a custom card. It's a mix of both Foxy and Gazelle. Basically, when this card is normal or special summon, you get to send a Marincess card from your deck to grave. So that's Gazelle's effect. When it's special summon or normal summon, or basically however, it sends a Marincess, and it sends a Salamangreat to grave. And then it has effect when this card is used as link material for a water monster. You get to excavate the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal them, and if you had a Marincess, you get to add one of those Marincess cards to hand, and then shuffle the rest back into the deck. This card's a really, really strong starter in the deck, and it's just a really great card. Next is our Marincess Spring Girl. Now, she is our newest extender of the archetype, and she is amazing. I guess she's the sister of this one. But basically, Spring Girl has 2 really, really good effects. First effect is you can banish a Marincess, I believe, monster in the grave, special summon out her, and then when this card is linked away or leaves field, I believe, you get to send cards on your field. I think it's 3. I think you said 3 cards in the graveyard, and then for every Marincess card you hit, you burn your opponent for 200. So the reason why this is really good is because a lot of Marincess have grave effects, which we'll get into. And the fact that you can just mill them to grave and then burn your opponent in time is actually kind of cool. So this deck has a win condition in time. Not to mention, she's a free extender, a level 4 for Bahamut Shark. She's just a really good card. Next, we play 3 Marincess Pascal. Now, not many people play 3 of her. I see a lot of lists, especially the topic ones, only play 2 of her. But I really think this card is really awesome. Basically, when this card is normal or special summon, you get to special summon another Marincess from hand, which is really good. So she's basically, what's it called, Goblinberg for the deck. You can summon out Blue Tang with Pascal, and just pop off from there, and make a link 2 or make a link 1. And also she has the effect that when this card is in graveyard, you can banish it and add a Marincess spell or trap from your deck from your graveyard to your hand, which is really good. So it reoccurs your spells and traps, which this deck loves. Its spells and traps are the reason why this deck is really, really strong. So I definitely can't wait to show you more. Next, for the Marincess 3-ups, we play 3 Marincess Seahorse. I think some people might cut this down to 2, but I think 3 is perfect. And basically, Seahorse is a free extender. When this card is in your hand and there's a link monster, a water link monster you control, you can special summon this card from your hand to, I think it passes the special summon to the zone it points to, just to make sure. You special summon this card to a Marincess link points to, absolutely. And then it also has a graveyard effect where you can banish this card and special summon a Marincess from your hand. That's really good with Pascal because you could banish this, special summon Pascal effect, special summon Blue Tang. They negate the Pascal, you still have a normal summon for Blue Tang. So it's just a really good card. Foolish Burial is definitely a recommendation in this deck. I don't think I have it in this build, but I definitely do recommend it. Next we play, now this might throw you off, because a lot of people either cut this card out entirely or they play one of it. I play 3 Marincess Mandarin. Maybe I'm just an old school player, because when this deck first came out, you definitely played 3 of her. I'd probably cut her down to 2 and play 2 Sleepy Maiden. Actually, you know, I'll do that right now, actually. Because I have so much in this box, I could just throw in a Sleepy Maiden. So give me one moment. But Mandarin's a really, really good card. So basically what it says is that when this card is in your graveyard or field, or in hand, and you control a Marincess monster, Link monster, you can special summon this card to a zone it points to. And then I believe it banishes when it leaves the field if it was summoned for the graveyard. Yeah, you can target when it leaves special this monster to the zone, but banish it when it leaves field. Yeah, so that's basically what it says. If you control 2 or more Marincess monsters, it doesn't have to special summon to the Link zone, so my apologies on that. Seahorse special summons to the Link zones. This says if you control 2 Marincess, special summon it from hand or grave, which is really, really good. I think you could definitely cut it out now, but I think it's just a decent extender. I also, because you can mill it, it's not bad to be milled or discard fodder. So if you want, you can play 2 Sleepy Maiden and then 2 Marincess Maiden, or however ratios you want. You can fill it in with hand traps, or however. This is definitely more of a control build. I kind of left the hand traps out, but I'll keep going with the list. Next, we play 1 Marincess Sleepy Maiden. She's our level 5, but she's a free summon if you control Marincess. Basically what she does is that if you control Marincess, first summon this card from your hand, and then you can target one card you control. It cannot be destroyed by card effects, I believe, which is really, really good, as long as Sleepy Maiden's on the field. Also, you can banish this card from your graveyard, target 1 Marincess Link monster you control, equip 1 Marincess Link from your graveyard. Basically, the whole idea of Marincess, which you probably don't understand if you've never seen this deck, is that their whole gimmick is that they make a Link climb into Link 4, and then their field spell equips cards to the Link 4, using the material you use to climb into it, making this really, really powerful boss monster with like 4 equips. And the fact that Sleepy Maiden can banish itself from grave to equip a different Marincess card is really, really good. But ultimately, it's just a free extender, and yeah, it's just a good card. Now, here's another iffy point. A lot of people don't play the Frog package in their deck. They're like, okay, we can just make the Frog a Bahamut Shark. But personally, Bahamut Shark is such easy way to negate and lose resources that I personally like the Swap Frog engine. I play 3 Swap, 2 Dupe, and then 1 Rodent Totem. And that'll be it for our monsters. So I'll explain these guys real quick and the reason why I play the Swap Frog engine. Now, originally, you probably can't see it with the camera, so I'll lower down this real quick. I'll put them right here. So the reason why I'm playing 3 Swap, 2 Dupe, and 1 Rodent Totem is the simple fact of the new Marincess Argonaut. Dupe lock is very easy in this deck, and this deck loses a lot to like battle effects. So let me explain. Swap Frog has the effect where you could discard any water monster, special summon this card from a hand. Then, when this card is special summoned or normal summoned, send a frog to grave. This is not once returned. So you have Swap Frog here. You can definitely combo off with Swap Frog, making sure you can make a toad without committing to your normal summon, which is really, really nice. Another great thing about Swap Frog is that he's great bait. You can get cards that you necessarily don't want in hand into the graveyard in order to use them for later. For example, you could discard Mandarin, and then Mandarin will just trigger to come back anyway. So it's just free discard fodder. And the dupe lock is that Argonaut, our new Link 4, which I'll go into later, basically has an effect where you can only attack her. But if you have her and a dupe frog on field, the opponent can't attack you at all. It's a dupe lock, so Argonaut can't be attacked, and dupe frog cannot be attacked. Thus, you cannot do battle. It's really, really good. The old combo was just have dupe frog, but that took like 2 turns to establish, and it wasn't really practical nowadays in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! But you can easily climb into an Argonaut, make a toad, and then special summon from deck a dupe frog and have a dupe lock with the Argonaut, which is really, really cool. And then one rodent totem because it's a resource fodder. When swamp frogs and rodent dupe frogs are engraved, you can banish them, special summon out rodent totem, which is really, really good. Dupe frog also has an effect where when this card is destroyed, I believe by battle, basically you get to add a swamp frog to hand, which is really, really nice. And that is it for our monsters. I believe this is 22 to be exact. There's a really large monster count, but I really wanted to show off this deck and what it can do. So let's go on to the spells and traps now. Alright, so for the spells and traps, now this also might be controversial because I'm playing an unorthodox version of this deck. So some ratios you probably wouldn't play and some cards you would. So I love this card, Fury of Kaioshin. So if you've seen my shark deck list, I recommended this card. I didn't have it in my build because my build was pure combo and sharks. I was like, if you go second in this deck, Fury of Kaioshin isn't really the strongest card. But unlike sharks, Marincess doesn't have the luxury of going second. They really are a hard go first deck. The deck kind of falls apart going second, to be honest. So Fury of Kaioshin is just a really, really strong going first card. What it does is that you activate this card, add a torrential tribute, and then if a water monsters would be destroyed by card effect or whatever, you can banish it and then protect them, which is really good. So you can activate this, add torrential tribute, your opponent commits to anything, flip the torrential tribute, banish this, protect your monsters, your opponent's monsters get destroyed anyway. This is a really, really strong card. Next, we play 3 Marincess Dive. The reason why I didn't make a deck list last week when I was doing the shark list was because I needed one more copy of Dive, but luckily my store got the final copy and I was able to buy it a couple days ago. Marincess Dive is a really, really strong card. Basically, it's emergency teleport and monster reborn in one card. Its monster reborn effect is basically if you control. Let me double check this real quick. You can't activate this card unless you control the field spell. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, for the rest of the turn, so if you control the target one. Oh no, never mind. My apologies. The first effect you can activate without the field spell. The second effect you have to have the field spell. My apologies. The first effect is you can target one non-link monster in your graveyard, special summon it. So like I said, it's monster reborn for the little Marincess monsters. Its second effect. Ooh, bless you. Sorry about that. The second effect requires Battle Ocean on the field. It's emergency teleport. So if Battle Ocean, your field spell is on the field, you special summon any Marincess monster from deck onto the field, which is really, really strong. And there's an argument to be playing multiple field spells because of this. But personally, I'm under the Salaman Great mindset where the field spell is the worst / best card in the deck. So we only play one of it. Now, don't get me wrong, if they cosmic this card, you kind of just lose the duel. But I feel like 2 is a little bricky. Maybe if you want to cut a Mandarin, you can cut a Mandarin, add a second Battle Ocean. But personally, Battle Ocean is just a nice one-of. You don't want to draw this card. You kind of just want to search it out, activate it. So what Battle Ocean does is that basically all Marincess monsters gain 200, all Marincess Link monsters gain 200 attack. And they gain 600 attack for every link monster attached to it. So if you make a link 4, I think you attach 3 links to it. And then those 3 links are boosting it by like 1800 plus the field spell's giving it 200. So it goes up to like 2000 plus attack, which is really, really nice. Also, Marincess Battle Ocean has the effect where if a Marincess monster is made with Crystal Heart, which we'll get into, it is unaffected by card effects, which is really, really strong. So it makes your Marincess a towers, basically, as long as the field spell is up, which is really, really cool. I wish it did not say Marincess Crystal. I wish this card said, if you made a Marincess Link 4, it is unaffected by card effects. This card would be so much better because a lot of times you could make a Link 4 really, really easy. The issue is climbing into Crystal Heart because you could do it probably your first turn without interruptions. But if you're playing through a lot of interruptions, it's really, really hard to make a Link 4 with the Crystal Heart. Because Crystal Heart really doesn't do anything. And that we'll get into Crystal Heart when we get to it. But basically, yeah, we played the one Battle Ocean. We also play one monster reward because it's just a really solid card, and one call by the grave. That is it for our spells. We play a lot of traps in this deck, and I'll explain that right now. So the reason why I'm playing a lot of traps in this deck is that I feel like this deck wants to go first. It's controlly as hell. It just wants to stop your opponent from establishing a board. And if you lose the die roll, well, you lose the die roll. I guess you better side deck better. But let's go on to the trap cards, which we play a lot of. First things first, we play our infinite impermanence on the deck. Marincess Wave. This card's really, really strong. Basically, it is, if you control a Marincess Link monster, you can activate this card in the hand. It's infinite impermanence. And anything it's a monster your opponent controls, negate it. What it also does is that basically, if you have a Link 2 or higher Marincess monster, all face-up monsters you currently control are unaffected by your opponent's card effects. So this also makes your monsters a towers, at least for a turn, which is really, really good. It kind of keeps up for the shortcomings of the field spell. Because like I said, the field spell, you have to make it with Crystal Heart. But if you have Wave, well, now you don't really need Crystal Heart now. So it's really, really strong. We can search this now with the new Link 3. So it's just a really, really strong card. And it's not once per turn to my knowledge. So unlike Infinite Impermanence, not actually Infinite Impermanence is not once per turn either. So it's basically Infinite Impermanence that's searchable for this archetype, which is just really, really good. We also play 3 Torrential Tributes. Like I said, we're playing the Fury of Kaioshin. We're a water deck. We can abuse Torrential Tribute. It's literally water exploding. This card says destroy, when a card is summoned, destroy all cards on the field. But if we have Fury of Kaioshin, which most likely we will, our cards are fine. They're protected, which is really, really good. And finally, for our last trap, this is debatable. You can put any card here. If you want more hand traps, you can put hand traps in the deck. Probably Ash or Droll. But I'm playing 3 Titanicider. This card is really, really good. It's reoccursion, so it always comes back. You can mill this off your Marincess cards, and you don't mind milling it because it resets itself. It's really good. And also, it just targets the extra deck monster, negates its effects, turns attack to 0. You can make your Link monsters really, really big. So you do this on your turn 3, onto a monster they control. It becomes 0 attack. Its effects negated. You get your guy to like 4,000 to 5,000 attack, and you just one punch him. It's really, really strong. I really like this card in the deck, but honestly, you can take it out for whatever. And that is it for the main deck. Let's go on to the extra deck. Alright, so the extra deck, we have some really, really strong cards. I would love to get into them in 3, 2, 1. Alright, let's go on to the extra deck. First things first, we play 1 Marincess Argonaut. She is the Link 4 that I was just talking about in the previous, what's it called? The previous monsters of the Dewfrog lock. This monster says, if you control Argonaut, your opponent can only target Argonaut for an attack, which is really, really good. Like I said, it protects you totally awesome, so they can't go after that with battle. This card is stupid. It has 3 effects, so that was the first effect. Its second effect is that basically, during your turn, you can send 1 water monster you control back to hand, or return 1 water monster you control to hand. Target 1 monster card your opponent controls, return that card to hand. It's really, really good. It just can pulse on legs. Also, during your opponent's turn, if an opponent activates a spell and trap, you can spell summon a Marincess Link from your spell and trap zone onto the field, negate and destroy that effect. You can only use this effect once per turn. This card is amazing and a really, really strong monster for the archetype. And ultimately, it's just really strong. You can get this thing really, really big, and it definitely is a really good Link 4 boss monster. Next, we play 1 what's it called? Marincess Great Blue Reef. This card's also a really, really strong Link 4 monster. This was the original boss monster of the deck. The other Link 4 that we don't play, I'll get into in the honorable mentions list. But basically, Great Bubble Reef, my apologies on the name, has a couple of effects. During the standby phase of during either player's turn, you can banish Marincess from grave. This card gains 600 attack. Also, I believe during your turn, you could return one of your, you could send 1 water monster from your hand to grave. to then reborn a banished fish, which is really, really good. Let me double check on that just to make sure. Once you turn during the step on face, you banish a water monster, gain 600 direct. Oh wait, I apologize. When you banish a water, not only do you gain 600, you also draw one. That's also important. So it's also drawing you a card every standby phase, which is really, really strong. Also, you can send one water monster from your hand to grave, special summon a banished Marincess monster from your banish zone, which is really, really strong. So whatever you're banishing is fine because you can just discard a water and special summon it from the banish zone, which is really, really strong. It's also 2600 attack, so it's our biggest Marincess monster, so you can actually get it really, really big. And yeah, this card's really, really strong. It's a draw engine, and it is a big boss monster. Next, the other new Marincess card in the link zones, Marincess Coral Trial. Now this card's broken. Basically, you can discard one water monster, add a Marincess, I believe, trap to hand? Yeah, I believe this is the trap searcher, which is really, really strong. Basically, it's like, yep, you need a Marincess trap, you got it. It searches imperm. What else more do you need? Also, when this card's in graveyard and you control no monsters, but your opponent does, you can banish it, special summon monsters that equal link rating of 3, which is really, really good. So basically, you can special summon, I believe, a link 1, a link 2, and then you can summon a link 2 and a link 1. Also, you can also, I believe, if I remember this effect correctly, you can special summon 3 monsters, basically, because 3 monsters equal 3 link materials, which is just really, really strong. This card's amazing. If we had more room in the extra deck, we'd probably play 2 of her. But for now, 1 is fine. There's a lot of recursion in the extra deck. So if you go through Triangle, you can definitely just put her back. Speaking of recursion, here's one of the cards that put cards back. Marincess Marble Rock. Marble Rock has a really good effect where basically, I believe you send a water monster to return a monster from grave back to extra deck or hand, which is really, really good. Yeah, so target one Marincess. Oh, my apologies. You don't have to discard anything. I'm getting these guys confused. All these guys had to discard a card. But you do not have to discard a Marble Rock. Marble Rock basically just says, hey, target Marincess card in the grave. Except Marincess Marble Rock, add it to hand. Which is really good. It's really good recursion. This used to be the link 3 you made with one of these, with this girl. So you used to make these two. Now you make her and her. Which is really, really strong. Also, it has an effect where you could special summon a Marincess link that was in the link spells zone onto the field, then gain an attack, which is really, really strong. Also, you don't take battle damage for that attack, too, so that's really cool. Now we get to also the Hard Soulless deck, Marincess Coral Anemone. Now, this is also recursion. This card is stupid. We played 2. Personally, I almost want to bump this up to 3 and take out the Splash Mage, because they do this, all 3 of these cards do the same thing. The reason why I have the 1 Splash Mage is that you can only use Coral Anemone effect once per turn. So the idea is that you make Splash Mage do its effect, Link Climb more, make Coral Anemone do it again. You know what I mean? In the same turn, which is really, really strong. They're both, but let me go over Coral Anemone. Marincess Coral Anemone has the effect where you can special summon a water monster to a zone this card points to once per turn. Also, when this card leaves field, like linking it off or whatever, you can basically add a water monster. It has to be specifically Marincess. My apologies. Target one Marincess card in your grave, add it back to your hand, which is really good. So it gets a recursion by adding cards from your grave back to hand. Also, it adds link monsters that you already went through back into the extra deck, so you don't run out of room. That's really important. These cards, you want to recycle enemies. You really, really do. And then, of course, Splash Mage is Splash Mage. It just special summons a water... I think it's a cyber sponsor, right? Yeah, target one star special summon to defense mission, but effective negated. Can't special summon the rest of the turn. So that's the other reason why this card kind of sucks. Whenever it special summons, its effects are negated, unlike Coral Anemone. Coral Anemone's effects, I believe, are still on. They're not negated. Yeah, these cards are not negated, which is really, really strong. Now we go on to, which I think is the Hindrances deck, Crystal Heart. Crystal Heart does nothing, but you have to play it as a one-of because it's for your field spell. Basically, this card has an effect where it's 0. If it's in the extra monster zone, it's unaffected by card effects. And then it has an effect where you can like send a water monster to negate damage and attacks. It can be destroyed, which is cool and all, but we're never doing that. We're making a Link 4 with this thing. So honestly, it's just in deck so you can make a Link 4 and have a Towers, which is really, really strong. Next, we play 2 Blue Slug. This card is amazing. Basically, when this card is linked, it's a Link 1, so any Link 1's already busted. I wish Crystal Heart was a Link 1, because then it'll be easier to go into, and we won't have to waste so much resources going into this thing when we could be going into a Marincess Coral Enemy. But anyway, Blue Slug. Blue Slug's really, really strong. Basically, Blue Slug says, when this card links up, you can just target Marincess' grave, add it to hand. It's another recursion card, so this is recurring stuff, this is recurring stuff, this is recurring stuff, this is recurring stuff. All these cards are recurring resources. This card has a very good resource loop in the extra deck. This deck goes through its extra deck a lot and very quickly to climb up to Link 4. So it's really important to recycle your links. Blue Slug is a really, really strong card. Arguably, you can put 3 of her. Is that good? Next, we play 2 Sea Angel. Sea Angel adds a spell. So this is our spell searcher. This is our trap searcher. Basically, what Sea Angel is special summon, you get to add a Marincess spell to hand. You can only use the effect once per turn. That's fine though. If you notice the link arrows, you go Blue Slug, reborn something. Alright, add something back to hand. Link into Sea Angel, add either the field spell, or if you already have the field spell, add the Marincess dive. Link again into a Coral Heart, and then you just keep popping off from there. These 2 are really essential for the deck. It's how you get your play started. Next, we play 1 Totally Awesome. You could argue that since we're playing the Frog package, we should be playing 2. The issue is I didn't want to cut a card in the extra deck. I didn't think there was enough room to have 2 Totally Awesomes, so for now we only have 1. We also still do play the 1 Bahamut Shark. If we don't have access to the frogs, it's easy enough to make Bahamut and just make a Toad play, which is really, really nice. And finally, Abyss Dweller. Now, there is argument to play 2 Toads and 1 Bahamut and take out the Abyss Dweller, but Abyss Dweller is just so good in his meta. You're going against a Sword Soul Tangy deck, you turn off their graveyard, which is pretty strong. You're going against Despia, you turn off their graveyard, that's really strong. You go against a lot of different rogue decks, you're just turning off their graveyard. It's just a really strong effect. Not to mention, because we're playing a water deck, Abyss Dweller can boost up all waters by 500, making your monsters even bigger. For example, if you had Abyss Dweller plus Toad, Toad's now 2700 attack, which is pretty nice. Bahamut's 31, I believe, because it gains 500. Yeah, it's 31, which is crazy. Abyss Dweller is going to be big because it's also gaining 500. So this guy's going to be 23, so it's going to be hard to run over. And all your Link 4s and Link 3s are just going to be a lot bigger too. And that is it for the extra deck. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. I expect the video tomorrow.